opening songs. You are welcome to stay in your seats or to rise in body or rise in spirit, however you're feeling called this morning. Our first one you have in your bulletin. It's called Courage, My Friends, and it's a call-response kind of song. So I'll sing a line, Lori will respond. I'll sing a line, Lori will respond, and then we sing a line together. As long as you follow Lori, you're doing great. Let's sing together. Courage,
courage,
my friend,
you
do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. A little faster. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. One more time. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. 389. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Please rise for our last gathering song, 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. thank you for singing with us. You may be seated.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Oh, that's great. You all look great. My name is Foster Perry, and my pronouns are he and him, and I am your pulpit host today. On behalf of the congregation, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Native tribes. Whether you have joined us online, hi everybody, or you are here in the sanctuary, we are glad to have you with us at this sacred time we choose to be together. We are an open community of learning, caring, and justice making. You are welcome here, every part of you, just as you are. Our congregation is served by our minister, the Reverend Jaimie Simon, who is not currently on sabbatical leave. So she can be reached by contacting the office if you have any issues that you'd like to discuss with her. If you're a newcomer, please sign our guest book in the foyer to receive our weekly email newsletter. Also in the foyer, underneath the name tag display, are hearing assist devices available for anyone who needs them. So please, just for a moment, take a moment and silence your electronic devices. I didn't do that, but so I'm going to do that right now too. If you have a joy, sorrow, or important milestone that you would like shared during the Circle of Candles, and included in the pastoral prayer, please write it on one of the white cards found in the hymnal rack in front of you. Here's the white card, and place it in the offering basket. For community news and events, check our email newsletter, website, and paper insert of your order of service. In case of inclement weather or other emergencies, notices of cancellation of services and activities will be communicated via church-wide email and on our Facebook page. This week, I really don't have any additional announcements.
You're good. You're good.
So we're not, yeah. But I'm going to ask our friend Brian Walls to come up here to deal with the singing bowl. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. It's nice to have a retired NASA engineer who understands physics to handle something like this. Music for centering? Now we'll see about lighting the chalice, if we could have some help for that. Thank you very much. And then we'll have our music for centering. Brian's still up here.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. My name is Reverend Jaimie Simon. My pronouns are she and her, and I serve you as the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville. Today, I'm so pleased to welcome in our guest this morning, Dr. Marisa Allison, who's a sociologist and community organizer with At the Root Collective. Yay! Hi, Marisa. Thanks for being with us. As we gather today, we'll settle in with these centering words from the Reverend Seth Carrier Ladd. Wind that whispers through the willow trees, sun that sustains us, water that washes over willing earth and weathered stones, a smile shared and savored, a child's squeal of delight as she dances in daisies and daffodils, the quiet joy of gathered community. This is the spirit of life and love that we call forth now into this gathering. May this spirit infuse our hearts, fill our souls, and carry us forward like a wave on the ocean as we enter now into this sacred time, this sacred space. Come, let us worship together. And as we begin, I'd invite you to rise once more to sing our first hymn, number 1068 in your teal hymnal. It's called Rising Green. Let's sing together.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my veins, boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain, where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end, my sight as deep as the sea, beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity, that of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wonders our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
You may be seated, and I'd like to invite forward now our children and youth for our story for all ages. I'd like to invite forward our children and youth for our time for all ages. Hello. Good morning. We've got more friends coming behind you. Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for those who came forward to hear this story, and for everyone, this is a story for all ages, so you're all invited to enjoy the story. But before I get started, I wondered if anybody had heard about there being some floods in Texas this past week. Did you guys hear about that? It's a pretty sad situation, right? Last week there was too much rain too quickly, and the water started rising, and unfortunately some children and some grown-ups who were enjoying their summer and going to camp in Texas got caught up in the floods. And some of them got hurt and some of them died, which is really sad to think about. And hearing about that on the news made me think of a fable story that I've heard at church a lot of times before. But it's a story that hits so close to home with what's just happened that I kind of wanted to give a warning that it might make you think about what's happened in Texas and how sad that was. But I also think that when something hard happens in our world or in our community, going back to the wisdom stories that we create our values around is a helpful way to help understand what's going on. So with that, here is our fable for this morning. Once upon a time, there was a small village on the edge of a river. Life in the village was busy. There were people growing food and people teaching children to make blankets and people making meals and telling important stories. Can you help me tell some stories? Psst, 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 psst. We're telling our important stories. Psst, psst, psst. One day, a villager took a break from harvesting the food and noticed a small child, a baby, floating down the river toward the village. She couldn't believe her eyes. She heard crying in the distance and looked downstream to see two other children had already floated by the village. She looked around at the other villagers working nearby. "Does anyone else see a child in the river?" she asked. One villager heard the woman but continued working. "Yes," yelled a man who'd been making the soup. "Oh, this is terrible." A woman who'd been building a campfire shouted, "Look, there are more coming from upstream." Indeed, there were 3 more children coming around the bend of the river. "How long have these children been floating by?" asked another villager. No one knew for sure, but some people thought they might have even seen something else in the river earlier. They were busy at the time and didn't have time to investigate, they said. Now quickly the village organized themselves to rescue the children. Watchtowers were built on each side of the river. There were swimmers coordinated, and they maintained shifts of rescue teams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had surveillance and zip lines with baskets going across the river to make sure they could get everyone out safely and quickly. And the babies kept floating down the river, and the number seemed to increase. But so did their watches, and they made sure to get as many out as they could. And the villagers built homes to take care of these children and made more blankets and increased the amount of food that they grew so that everyone was housed and warm and fed. And they kept telling their stories over and over again. Will you tell stories with me one more time? Psst, psst. Then one day, there was a meeting of the village council. A villager asked, "But where are all these children coming from?" "No one knows," said another villager. "But I say, we should organize a team to go upstream and find out who's throwing these babies in the river." And not everyone was in agreement. "We can't leave to go look. We need people here right now to help us," said one villager. "That's right," said another. "And who will be here to cook for them and look after them if all the people go upstream?" After the arguments were heard, the council chose to let the village decide. And that's where they end the story. But friends, I wonder, if you were a villager in this village, what would your vote be? Would you send a team upstream? What do you think? Would you send someone upstream to look? What do y'all think the lesson of this story is? Do we know? I think the lesson this story is trying to teach us is that there are problems in our world that are so big that by the time we see them, we really only see one small part of the larger problem. But those problems come from somewhere, right? They're only seeing the babies in the river, but the babies had to come from somewhere. And focusing on the small part, we can see doesn't help solve the whole larger problem that's happening. So we can choose to only deal with the parts of the problem we see, or we can do that collective community work, taking care of the children, taking care of the needs as they show up, but also digging in a little deeper, looking upstream, trying to figure out why the problem started in the first place, and if maybe there's a way to stop it, to cut it off at the root. There's not an easy answer here, is there? No. But I think if I was a villager, I'd want to see what was happening upstream. And I hope thinking about this story and trying to figure out a way to move through this message and this metaphor is something you'll chew on and bring home as you continue throughout your week. And now we will sing you off to your classes this morning. I would say the order of service got a little wonky, so follow us and don't worry if things aren't quite what the order you're seeing. Instead, I'd like us to invite up once again Dr. Marisa Allison to help lead our service. Thank you for being with us. And Marisa, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work at the Root Collective?
Sure. Thank you all. Can everyone hear me in the back?
Yeah.
Awesome. Marisa Allison, she and her pronouns. Wonderful to be here with you, and I just want to first say thank you all for letting us use your beautiful space here for our People's Movement Assembly, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So I am from Huntsville. I grew up here in North Huntsville. My dad still lives here. My wife, who is here with our son, we moved away for a while and then came back. And that was a big part of that was because we were in the queer community, and in the 90s, that was not a super easy place to be here. But a lot of what we're doing in At the Root is recognizing that us leaving meant that things weren't necessarily changing at home. And so coming back was a big part of our story, and a big part of a lot of the stories of LGBTQ community members who did leave for a while and then came back. So when I left, I did go on to become a sociologist. Part of what we do in sociology is to try to help people understand the difference between personal troubles and social issues. And oftentimes, the personal troubles that we face are rooted in the social issues that are happening around us. So very similarly, when we talk about the People's Movement Assembly in a minute, you will see that kind of corresponds with it. The story that Reverend Jaimie just told also, very much aligns with that as well. At the Root Collective started as an organization of individuals who showed up at a library board meeting. You very well might have noticed that the libraries have been under attack for the past couple of years, if not longer. And there were just a handful of us who showed up to the library board meeting, and the library board said, wow, we have never had people here before. And that was a big surprise to them. we very quickly learned while we were there that there was something much broader happening besides what was just happening here in Huntsville, where they were trying to remove over 200 books out of the children's section and move them into the adult section. That situation has now grown even further to where the state is threatening the libraries to take away funding if they don't get rid of certain materials within the library, specifically materials around the transgender community, racial justice. So all of that really led us to see there's a much bigger problem here across the state, and so that's how our collective formed. That is not all we work on, but what we recognize is that the library is just the stage for these moral panics that are playing out against transgender individuals in our community specifically, and racial and ethnic minorities. So that's what we do, is we try to get at the root of the problems and try to address them in new ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And can you tell us more specifically about People's Movement Assembly and why that process is worth our collective consideration this morning?
Yeah, so Kelly Akuno, who's with Cooperation Jackson, he's a movement elder. I think he would probably be upset if he knew we called him an elder, but he's definitely wise. And he says fascism is the response to a deep crisis of the moment we're in. And the existing systems that we have, the systems of oppression that they're rooted in, do not have an answer for us. So the People's Movement Assembly process emerged out of Hurricane Katrina specifically. It was a recognition that the systems that were already in place weren't going to help us, and we see that now. With our fight in the libraries, we go all the time. We're going next week to 2 different board meetings, both locally and at the state level. I will say our library board here is lovely, wonderful. And they've been great in trying to really push back against what's being pushed upon them. But we go to these meetings over and over and over again, and we don't really see any change. And so the People's Movement Assembly is really about trying to get power back into the hands of our community, into our hands, to make change at the local level. That will hopefully push us to really address issues that are at the root of it.
Awesome. And ultimately, friends, what we want to share with you from the People's Movement Assembly is not just the theory of it, but the practice of it. So we are going to engage in a People's Movement Assembly style process here and now together this morning.
We thought maybe we're going to do an exercise here in a minute, but maybe just you all could shout out, what are some of the problems that we're facing in the Huntsville and Madison County? What are some problems that our community is facing?
Homelessness. We got more problems than that, friends. Yeah. What else are we dealing with?
Income inequality. Great, Treya. I hear you back there.
Hunger, yep.
Hunger.
Shelter and housing inequality, absolutely.
Right. All of our utilities rates increased of every single area that we need over the past year within City Council, too.
Apathy.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yep. And lack of awareness. Yes, and lack of awareness that leads to more apathy, absolutely. Lack of proper social work. Gosh, we could use more social workers in this community.
100%. Yeah. So, great. We're going to focus down to one problem today, which I think is kind of in alignment both with what happened in Texas last week, and then also the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina coming up, but also things that we're facing here. So that one problem that we're going to focus on today is the impacts of climate change. So we're going to use the tool of the PMA, which Reverend Jaimie has made this lovely little tree up here. And this is just an exercise that we do to try to figure out and get to the root of the frontline issues that we're facing due to climate change, and see how they are directly affecting us in our community. And this is called a problem tree.
We have leaves and bark for you. Get excited. So I'm going to invite us now to, and I know we have a space that has immovable pews. So getting together in groups isn't the most convenient, and yet it's so much fun. So I'm inviting you to move your body, circle up, be aware of the different accessibility and mobility needs in the room. Get in groups of 4 to 6 to 8 people so you have partners to brainstorm with. Yeah.
And
Go, rock
now
and roll.
Jaimie and the ushers are going to make sure that you get all the supplies that you need.
Yes.
And together you're going to, I'm going to let you get in groups first and then give directions. So once you get your leaves, what you're going to do together is to try to brainstorm and write down on each individual leaf some of the what we call the frontline issues that are resulting from climate change that you have experienced or noticed in our community. To do this, you'll write down those issues on the leaves, one leaf for each issue. And they're going to be leaves that we're going to attach to our problem tree. So some examples of that may be, are you suffering from heat exhaustion in a way that you didn't used to before? Have you noticed increased tornadic activity near you year-round now? Increased power bills, changes in precipitation patterns that are affecting your home gardens, things like that. So write those down and we'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes to brainstorm. Thank you.
In case you need some more clarification, I think some of the instructions got a little confusing as we were going through. Once again, we're going to get to the bark in a second. We're just focusing on leaves right now. And on each leaf, you are writing an example of an impact of climate change you've noticed here in our community, you've heard about, your neighbors mentioned, something local, and things we've kind of brainstormed as examples to get you started. More incidents of heat exhaustion, increase in tornado activity, changes in precipitation, not participation, though we see that too, things like that. And then in a moment, we'll get to the bark. All right, friends. I hope you're having great conversations about the impacts of climate change in our community and that you've got some good examples for your leaves. If you'll focus back up here for just a moment, now that we've understood our leaves, we're gonna look down from our leaves, and the next part of the tree is the trunk. And now we're gonna think about our trunk, which is the part of the tree that has the bark, and that's where the bark is gonna come in. It's gonna be so much fun. So in our metaphor, we understand the trunk to be those situations and institutions and things that benefit from and hold up the leaves. So if you look at the problems that you've identified as the leaves, who benefits, who supports, what is holding up those leaves? And we can think about our politicians who may or may not believe that climate change is real and impacting our communities. We can think of the economic impact for oil and gas companies and different things like that. And we may not know all of the things that bark could be, but let's start brainstorming. So in your group, brainstorm who benefits from these negative impacts of climate change, and as a group together, on one or two pieces of bark, feel free to write down in that middle rectangle those pieces that are holding up the trunk. Clear as mud? Excellent.
Sandwiches also.
Thank you for helping us come up with examples of our bark. Thank you so much for doing the process and being willing to try out these leaves and barks. I'm going to invite you in your little clusters to nominate someone who is excited about using a stapler to come staple up your leaves and your bark up here. And if you are feeling called and inspired to share with the group a leaf that came up or an example on the bark that came up in your group, the mic is open for you to share those as well. So come on forward, we're gonna build our tree and speak aloud some examples of our leaves and bark.
Yes. So I've gone through and looked at some of the leaves that are showing up. So Wade is putting up some increased temperatures that are affecting especially our unhoused populations. Let's see, what else do y'all have? Oh yeah, climate refugees. So we're seeing a lot of folks come to Huntsville, and that is something that we'll see more and more of. More rain, flooding yards and roads, yeah, definitely. Excess heat, what you got here? Impacts to respiratory health for asthma, COPD, for sure. What you got here?
Heat wave, water shortage.
Oh yeah, heat waves and water shortage. Too hot for lawn care. Yeah, no joke. It's too hot for your kid to slide down the slide at the playground in the middle of the day. Got you. Oh, tornado damage in our neighborhood. Yeah, our neighborhood has had like 2 tornadoes in the past year, and we haven't had that for much of the history, for sure. That's great. Some of the bark, can you all hear me? There we go. We'll get it. So some of the bark were home building companies. What were some of the other ones you saw in there? Oh yes, fossil fuel companies. I wrote down before we even got here, like TVA executives. They make a significant amount of money. So now all that's left is the roots. And so if we're thinking about this as a metaphor, the roots here are the larger systems of oppression, the things that oppress us, that create and support the trunk. So after decades of teaching sociology students and being part of community organizing, the roots of the problem tree are always the same. I'm sure you all could yell some out to me as you think of capitalism. Yes. Citizens United, yes, wonderful. Yes, so we have Bell Hooks famously evoked the roots as imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. It was the language that she used. And we also know that other queer scholars, indigenous scholars who focus in on this are looking at settler colonialism, knowledge domination, meaning like what things become the knowledge that we are evoking and using to make decisions and using processes, and then what knowledge is being erased. The People's Movement Assembly is rooted in indigenous processes and knowledges. This is nothing new, the process of doing this. So for community organizers and community members, the problem tree is a good tool to help us understand and decide where we can focus our limited time and energy in our resistance work. We have all been protesting for a while, and it's exhausting after a while. And so figuring out where we can have the biggest impact on the issues that most affect our community are helpful. But the problem tree is solely a tool of resistance. And At the Roots name comes from the Angela Davis quote that says, being radical means grasping things at the root. And while it's important to resist in ways that help unearth the trees that are rooted in these systems that oppress us, we also recognize that it would be negligent for us to not also plant seeds rooted in systems that don't oppress us, the systems that actually liberate us at the same time. So we do that by building better systems for the people and by the people. We have, in the Southern Movement Assembly work, we know that we have everything we need in the communities that we are surrounded by. We often look outside of ourselves to try to see who will help us and how are we going to, get help from other spaces, but we have a lot of what we need. So what it's looking like in our library work is while we continue to pressure the local library board, the city council to resist the sort of blackmail attempts that are being launched at the by the state and federal government that are really, again, like I was saying, about banning materials about the LGBTQ plus community and racial justice, even comprehensive sex education. Reverend Jaimie was actually telling me about the program that you all have in the UU, which sounds just amazing. These are all processes that help us to build something instead of relying our thinking that we can resist our way into liberation. So we also work to secure access to the books that are most at risk of being banned outside of the reach of the state. So over the last year, we've been stocking little free libraries throughout the county, bringing in donations to the Shenanigans Diversity Center Library. And most recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene came to town. I don't know if y'all heard about that. Moms for Liberty hosted her, and so we worked with partners at Rainbow Trouble and the Alabama Trans Rights Action Coalition, which is commonly known as ALTRAC, to hold a Marjorie Taylor Queen's Pride book drive. And we were able to gather up a significant, I think we had well over 500 books that are at risk of being banned, and put them in the Shenanigans Diversity Center Library. So this is a resist and build strategy, and it's one that recognizes that resistance may only lead us to reforming the system that still is rooted in systems of oppression. And if we aren't building alternative structures communally that are committed to deep systemic change. So I thank y'all for having us come out today and share this, and thank you for sharing your space. The plan is to have a People's Movement Assembly once a year. We did this process in our PMA, and we were able to not just identify these things, but it helps us to figure out, like, where, are we barking up the wrong tree? Like, where do we need to be putting our finite amount of energy to make the most impact? And as we're trying to uproot the systems of oppression here, how can we also build and plant a tree of resistance? And I thank Reverend Jaimie for that. Was a great way of thinking about it. So thank you all for having me here today.
Thank you, Marisa.
We are the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville, a proudly inclusive spiritual community, and together we build a broader search for meaning, a bolder form of compassion, and a braver voice for justice, which we've heard so much about. At this time, we invite you to support our mission with a monetary contribution. You may donate online using the QR code on your order of service, or you may put cash or check donations in the offering baskets. Completed Circle of Candles cards, those white cards I showed you earlier, should also be placed in the offering baskets. You are invited to come forward during this time and quietly drop a stone into the bowl of water here next to the ramp, to your right, my left, in honor or memory of what you hold in your heart. With gratitude, we now receive the offering.
Friends, will you join me now for a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer? Great Spirit of life, be with us as we are with one another this morning, bending our hearts in the service of justice, holding together the joys and sorrows most present in our lives. Tim and Teresa Miller share in joy that they got to have a reunion of their twin daughters this weekend. Vanessa's here today, who lives in Boston, and Allie and the grandkids had to return to Tallahassee, but what a blessing to have them all together for a visit this weekend. What a joy it is to spend time with those we love. And as we share that joy, we share in sorrow from LaDawn Edwards for all those who are mourning the loss of relationships through absence, estrangement, loss of peace, or loss of rights. We hold that tender sorrow in our hearts. And we lift our hearts in prayer for our world. This morning, I am praying desperately for all those who are in ICE prisons in our country. I'm thinking of Imam Ayman Soliman, a chaplain at the Children's Hospital in Cincinnati, who was abducted by ICE this week. For all who are so wrongly incarcerated, for the abuses of human rights, and for our collective souls as we continue down this horrible path, I pray this morning. In all these places of celebration, may kindness and connection grow, and in these places of pain and concern, may compassion and healing and transformation take root. Let's hold a moment of silence once more for all these things held in our hearts in this moment. Blessed be, and amen. And to close our time of justice and learning, I'd invite you to rise in body or spirit for one final hymn. It's number 1014 in your teal hymnal. And you'll see printed, this one is called Standing on the Side of Love. Several years ago, there was an ask to make the language of this song more inclusive to people who move through the world in lots of different ways. And so the lyrics have been changed to Answering the Call of Love. If you're able to answer the call of love with us this morning, let's sing together.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth on our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of
Friends, our worship service now comes to a close. I will be at the back of the sanctuary to greet you, and everyone is invited to join us for coffee and conversation here in Fellowship Hall. As we leave this time together, we extinguish our chalice. Friends, the moment we are in now is ours to meet. Together, we can more deeply understand the problems and challenges and opportunities of our moment. We can name deep truths about who and what benefits from the problems that we face. And we can choose to both save those suffering now and stop future suffering from happening if we work together and remember that love is always the center. Go out and meet this moment with joy. Blessed be and amen, and we'll go out singing our rite of community, 1039, Be Thou With Us. Great.
Be thou with us now and always, now and always. Blessed be.
Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.